This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by DAZN's Joe Markowski here in sunny Miami. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Obviously, just having a brief chat off camera. I know you've been playing a bit of golf with Eddie and Frank this morning. How's everything been going on that front?
Yeah, it went well this morning. Better than it went a couple of days ago. But we Team DAZN beat Team Matchroom this morning, so bragging rights are currently with Team DAZN, which is a good thing for me.
You got another game coming up?
We'll see. We've got a lot to do. But yeah, it's been good fun. It's a great place to be staying for the next couple of days.
Let's obviously get into the main reason why we are in Miami. Andrade Williams. I've said it to a few people. I said it to Eddie. It's a brilliant fight. He should live up to the expectations, and hopefully it does do. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to have kind of had that same recognition maybe over social media by fans, certainly at least over here in the States. From your perspective, do you agree with that? Or
I think Demetrius Andrade in the US suffers a bit from having not had the big fights over the last couple of years. Skill-wise, I think everyone acknowledges he's right up there at the top of the middleweights, right? But I think he's been ducked and dodged across the board. He's an awkward fighter, and people have avoided taking him on. As a result, his profile isn't as big as it probably should be. I think he's probably very frustrated by that. He wants the big fights. He's always been on record saying that. So that probably does, unfortunately for him, and for us as his broadcaster, dilute the interest in the fight. But I think what he's got an opportunity to do with this fight this weekend against Williams is, deliver a spectacular knockout, make a massive statement, and do what he always does, which is call out the big names, the Charlos of the world, for example. So I think he's got a great opportunity. That said, Williams is the toughest opponent he's faced in a long time. I think everyone's in agreement there. For us, it's brilliant because obviously the Brits, and we can build that into our new global schedule, and that's why we're scheduling the show like we are, so it hits UK at prime time. So it should be, they're both promising fireworks. I hope it lives up to expectation. Williams' chance, I think, is to come on the front foot and try and rattle Andrade early. Andrade's a very skilled, very smart boxer, so we'll see how it plays out. But hopefully it won't go to 12 rounds, and we'll see a knockout.
On the Andrade opponent front, I believe this is his fifth fight with Matchroom USA. For you guys as his broadcaster over here, has it been frustrating that you haven't been able to get him, or not necessarily get him a big fight, just something hasn't materialised yet? Is it something kind of, you guys are pressuring Eddie at all on that front?
Yeah, look, we put pressure on Matchroom to deliver us big fights, but we also recognise the politics and, frankly, the bullshit of boxing at times, right? We've learnt that in the last 3 years. It's not specific to Matchroom. They're in my opinion, right up there at the top of the game in terms of matchmaking and to getting value to their broadcast partners. It is frustrating, but it's no one's fault, I don't think, on our side. We've always had the sort of commitment and the relationship and the funds to try and put Demetrius in big fights. We've always backed him there. It hasn't played out for reasons beyond our control, but I know that Eddie's not contributing to that. He's trying his best to make those fights, so there's no frustration on our side with our side of things, our camp, if that were. I just want to make sure that at some point soon Andrade gets the chance he deserves.
We know the fight will be peak time back in the UK. It's on a good time for us over here in the US as well. Is that something we should expect to see moving forward, especially as you look to expand into the UK market more so?
Well, Eddie keeps saying it's a win-win because it allows him to get to dinner in Miami at a reasonable time, as well as getting the UK fans a show at prime time. But jokes aside, it is a big part of our strategy going forward. You'll hear Eddie talk about Matchroom's new sort of global output. From our perspective as the US sort of promotion, a broadcast partner, we want to make sure that we're getting as much value to as many people as possible. You're going to start seeing us have UK and US opponents matched up because the two biggest audiences we have right now are the US and the UK. So that makes the most sense for us. It's something you'll see us do more and more of, I think, going forward.
Now, when you guys came into the boxing market, there's a lot of talk about kind of the funds you put behind Matchroom. A new competitor on the horizon in Triller. What have you made of their move into the boxing world and obviously the money that they've been investing?
That's big money they're investing. Obviously, some of it's on record publicly, given purse bids, etc. Look, we've had our own experience in boxing. We know how hard it is to crack into the market. It's not a traditional sport. It does take a bit of noise to establish yourself. So I imagine that's their strategy right now. We're in a different stage of our journey. We're very happy with our boxing program and our boxing investments. We've navigated COVID, I think, particularly well as a broadcaster more generally, but also in our relationships in boxing. We've been lucky to have the support of fantastic partners who get the need to be flexible and open-minded and frankly creative when it comes to contractual solutions, especially with Matchroom. We've navigated that particularly well, in our relationships in a fantastic place. So look, good luck to Triller. I think it's good for the sport. It's good that they're bringing in, I think, I love the entertainment stuff they're throwing in it, the Justin Biebers, and watching Mike Coppinger and others sort of talk about Justin Bieber being an event. You can wind up Mike with stuff like that. But it's good for the sport. There's money coming in. It's great for the fighters. It's good for fans. It will, if it works, bring more people into the sport of boxing, and that's what boxing needs. So good luck to them.
Just one thing I want to touch on, something I've been keen to ask you for a while, with regards to DAZN and COVID and the situation there. Just before the pandemic really kind of took its hold on the world, DAZN was really kind of making its stamp in the sport. Navigating through this past year or so, how have you found it?
I think we've done a really good job. This time last year was probably the hardest we've ever had as a business. And I don't just mean in boxing. I mean, for a business that relies on sport to be, broadcast to drive a subscription base, there's not many things worse than all sport globally stopping, right? So there was that, plus the natural sort of chaos it threw into the worlds of relationships and contracts and obligations and sort of behind the scenes boring stuff that ultimately is very, very important to building and growing a business. We have done a really good job. I think the business reacted in sort of 3 stages. There was sort of immediate reaction to the sort of crisis that COVID was. We then sort of reset a few things, and then we got back into growth mode. And I think for the last, probably from the back end of last summer, so for the last 6, 7, 8 months, we've been on the front foot again. That's reflected in our subscriber numbers, which I know you'll ask, but I won't tell you. But they're in a good space. We've made some big management changes. We've got some new leadership. We've got some new relationships. We've got a fantastic schedule of boxing events. We've got new rights in Italy with domestic Serie A there, which is awesome for our business there. So yeah, DAZN's in a healthy spot right now, and I think that's because we dealt with the challenges of COVID very well and kept sort of a focus on driving and going forward. So I'm happy with where we are.
Now, I'm sure you probably expected this question. DAZN in the UK, we know with regards to Eddie and Sky, their deal's coming towards an end now. There's a lot of talk about offers being on the table for him and new broadcast promoters and what have you. How do you guys feel about it? I know he's spoken openly about you guys having spoken about becoming their main platform in the UK. Do you think it will be you guys who Eddie chooses? There's a lot of kind of reports and rumours it will be.
Yeah, I think that's the question for Eddie, right? I mean, he'll have a decision to make at some point. We've got a great relationship. It's not something that's playing out quite yet. It's probably not too far away that will all play out. But it's not something we're focused on right now. We're focused on, delivering the schedule we've got to the fans we've already got. What I would say is the UK for us as a market in our global platform offering is performing very well. We've got a very solid fan base there, and we're delighted to be serving them with content like this weekend and doing what we can with the content we have right now to deliver them great value. And at $1.99, I think we're doing that and then some. So that's what I'm focused on right now, to be perfectly honest.
Just out of interest, Joe, obviously, let's say if yourself and Matchroom did team up over in the UK to broadcast all of their shows, what do you feel you could offer to that UK market? We've seen how heavily you've invested into the US side of things. What do you feel you could invest into the UK side?
I think people know what DAZN's about. As I say, we're not focused on that. We're focused on the US. DAZN's approach globally is pretty consistent. Different sports, different focus, and as I said, we've had a lot to deal with in the last 12 months in the markets we're in. As and when we're ready to look at new markets and invest more heavily going forward elsewhere, it'll be more of the same. But as I said, it's not the focus right now.
I just want to touch on Fury AJ as well. There's a lot of talk about that fight. Broadcasters and platforms and what have you, not something which have kind of been spoken about as much recently because of the site fees going on, what have you. Just from your perspective, Joe, I just want to ask you, Tyson's exclusive with ESPN, AJ in the UK is exclusive with Sky, and I don't believe he has a deal with you guys out here in the US. Would you guys be okay with not having that fight across your platforms in either the US or the UK?
Look, I think we've been on record. This fight's been talked about for like 2 years now, right? And there's a lot's happened. We've got a fantastic relationship, a rolling relationship with AJ, obviously outside of the UK and Ireland where he's with Sky, and done very well with them. As and when the broadcast element of those discussions starts, which is not yet because they're still trying to lock down obviously site fee and get. But I think they're making progress on the sort of getting both sides lined up, and then it's a date, and then it's come back to the table and discuss broadcasters. We've always been on record, not just for this fight, but also on this fight, that we're going to be creative and open-minded and flexible. We're not going to be the sort of like difficult partner that slows everything down. The world wants to see this fight. That goes way beyond core boxing fans. It's going to be the biggest sporting event in the UK, despite the fact you've got the Euros and the Olympics potentially this year. It's massive, especially in the UK. So we'll be flexible and open-minded, and we'll be a proactive seat at the table trying to make something happen. If that means we don't get the rights in the US, we'll see. Those conversations are all to come, so I can't comment on that yet.
What do you make of a fight in general? It's one which has built up a lot of interest over time. We've done a couple of interviews on it yourself. It seems to be that it is edging ever closer. From your perspective, how big of a fight would this be for, say, the last 20, 30 years?
Well, it's the biggest fight in British boxing history. I think it's the biggest fight in boxing probably in my lifetime, I think. I don't know, I can't think of a duck there interrupting proceedings, sorry. Yeah, it's the biggest fight I can remember happening. I think obviously as Brits we're probably slightly biased. Looking at just talking to my mates and my family, this attracts an interest from people who don't like boxing day to day or follow boxing day to day, which speaks to it. It's a monster pay-per-view in the UK for Sky and or BT, so they'll be licking their lips, I'm sure. I think it's brilliant for boxing. I think it's an opportunity for British sport, excuse the pun, but it always punches above its weight just generally across the board, and I think in boxing that's particularly sort of clear right now. So I'm really excited about it. I think a lot of my mates would say, oh, Fury's going to edge it. Obviously I'm slightly biased. We're not embarrassed to say we're sort of Team AJ and all of that, but I think it's a genuine 50-50. That's what makes it all the more exciting. It's not just two Brits, it's two Brits who could genuinely both win. So look, I think it will probably be at least a two-fight sort of story, maybe a trilogy. I'm sure Eddie would hope it does go to a trilogy. We're just very excited as and when it's the right time for us to involve ourselves in the conversations on broadcast rights. We'll be quick to the table, quick to make a plan, and then we'll get into promoting it and marketing it and getting ourselves ready, because it's absolutely huge.
Final thing before I leave you to enjoy the rest of your day and get on with more important matters when speaking to me, Joe. Big fight in a matter of a couple of weeks. Canelo-Saunders unified super middleweight titles. How are preparations going on your front?
Awesome. Yeah, I was going through all of our plans this morning with the team. We've got a massive campaign plan, both sides of the Atlantic. Big fight here. Obviously, Cinco de Mayo for the Mexican Americans in particular is a massive sort of cultural moment, and that does add 20-30% interest amongst that community, which is great for us as a broadcaster. I think the excitement's building back at home in the UK, so we'll be very active pushing that in the next couple of weeks. You'll start seeing us sort of spending more marketing dollars and getting our promotion out. I also think what's not being talked about enough is how big an event it's going to be from a fan attendance perspective. I can't think of an event around the world since COVID started that's going to have more than 70,000 fans. I know the Aussies and the Kiwis have had some big rugby games, but that's not got a bit above 50,000. So 70,000 Texans and Mexican Americans, and I'm sure a few Brits will find themselves there somehow, probably yourself included. The atmosphere is going to be incredible, and if Canelo Yildirim ring walk was anything to go on, I know that Eddie's got a few things up his sleeve there which will even be bigger and better. So very excited, looking forward to it as a fan as well as from a broadcast perspective. It's biggest sporting event I think thus far this year that I'm aware of, and 70,000 people in the arena will look a lot like normal life, right? So that's exciting.
All right, Joe, we will leave that there. Like I say, I appreciate your time today. Enjoy the rest of it, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, see you soon.